Hi, I'm Sarah, and let me tell you, my life took a real sharp turn. It was 5 years into my marriage with Mark, and honestly, we were your average run-of-the-mill couple. I was a teacher, loving my days in the classroom, and he was a manager at an energy company. Life was pretty straightforward, predictable even. Then, out of the blue, his dad passed away, leaving his mom, Eleanor, all alone in their old family house. It was during this already difficult time that Mark dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through our comfortable existence. "Sarah, we need to talk," Mark said abruptly one night. His tone so serious, it made me freeze mid-scroll on my phone. I looked up, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. "What's up? Everything okay?" He took a deep breath, the air in the room suddenly thick with unspoken words. "It's about Mom. She's all alone in that old house since Dad passed. I think we should move in with her." I felt my stomach plummet as if I were on a roller coaster. Move in with Eleanor? Eleanor and I were like oil and water. We could barely stand to be in the same room. "Mark, are you serious?" I asked, my voice laced with disbelief. "You know Eleanor and I barely get along." He leaned against the kitchen counter, his expression firm, unyielding. "I know, but she's my mom, Sarah, and she's struggling. Plus," he added, his voice softening slightly, "we're just burning money on this rented apartment." I sighed, running a hand through my hair, a wave of frustration washing over me. "But this is our space, Mark, our home. Moving in with your mom, it's a whole different ballgame." Mark's voice took on a pleading edge, his eyes searching mine. "Please, Sarah, it's not just about the space, it's about family. Mom needs us." I bit my lip, feeling utterly cornered. "Your mom needs us," I repeated, the emphasis heavy on the your. "Or you need your mom." He frowned, a flash of hurt in his eyes. "That's not fair, Sarah. It's not like I'm asking you to live in a dump. It's a huge house, plenty of room for all of us." I crossed my arms, feeling the tension rise like a tide. "And what about our life here? Just uproot everything because Eleanor snaps her fingers?" Mark's tone hardened, a hint of anger creeping in. "It's not like that, and you know it. I'm thinking about what's best for everyone." "Everyone?" I shot back, my voice rising with indignation. "Or just Eleanor?" He threw his hands up in frustration. "Damn it, Sarah. Can't you just try to see the bigger picture here?" I glared at him, my own anger now fully ignited. "I am looking at the bigger picture, Mark. Our life, our independence, not just playing happy families in that gloomy old house of hers." The argument went in circles, each word a painful jab. But eventually, worn down and wanting to keep the peace, for Mark, I told myself, I caved. But deep down, a cold dread settled in my heart. I dreaded every single bit of it. Moving day arrived, and it was every bit as uncomfortable and awkward as I had imagined. Eleanor's house was this imposing old structure with rooms that echoed with the ghosts of the past and a constant bone-chilling draft in the air. Eleanor greeted us with a stiff, barely there smile. "Welcome to my home. I expect you to respect my ways." I forced a smile, trying desperately to maintain a semblance of peace. "Of course, Eleanor. We appreciate you letting us stay." But living with Eleanor was like living under the constant scrutiny of a hawk. She had a comment for absolutely everything. "Don't put the dishes away like that, or you're overwatering the plants." It was relentless, a constant barrage of criticism that chipped away at my sanity. One night, after a particularly harsh critique of my meatloaf, I exploded to Mark in our bedroom, the dam of my frustration finally breaking. "I can't do a damn thing right for your mother. It's like living with a drill sergeant." Mark rubbed his temples, looking equally frustrated and worn out. "Sarah, just give it time. She's old and set in her ways." I threw my hands up in exasperation. "Great, so we just tiptoe around her until the end of time?" He didn't have an answer, and honestly, neither did I. This house, with its constant surveillance and Eleanor's scrutinizing eyes, was suffocating me, slowly but surely. Life in Eleanor's house was turning into a daily grind, an endless cycle of criticism and stifled resentment. Just when I thought I could somehow handle it, Mark dropped another bombshell, this time with a casualness that belied its devastating impact. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, and I was desperately trying to find some peace amidst the overgrown rose bushes in the garden when he came out, leaning against the weathered wooden gate. Sarah, we need to talk, he said, his tone flat, devoid of emotion. I looked up, feeling that familiar knot of dread tighten in my stomach. What now, Mark? He took a deep breath, his gaze drifting away. I think you should quit your job and stay home. We're spending a fortune on a nurse and housekeeper for Mom. It makes more sense if you just do it. I stood up, anger surging through me like a jolt of electricity. Quit my job, Mark? I love teaching. It's not just about the money. He ran a hand through his hair, his tone getting edgy. I know, but think about it. It'll make things easier around here. I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. So what? I just become a full-time maid and nurse? That's not the life I want, Mark. Mark's voice rose, a sharp edge to it. It's not about what we want, Sarah. It's about what's practical. My mom needs us. I glared at him, my voice trembling with indignation. No, Mark, your mom needs you. I didn't sign up to be her caretaker. He shot back, his eyes flashing with annoyance. Well, things change, Sarah. We need to adapt. Adapt? That word felt like a slap in the face. I loved my job, my independence. This wasn't adapting. This was sacrificing everything that made me, me. You know what, Mark? Fine, I'll do it, I said, my voice cold and hard. But don't expect me to be happy about it. He sighed, a look of relief washing across his face. Thank you, Sarah. It means a lot. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like I was losing a part of myself, piece by painful piece. Quitting my job was hard, like severing a limb. But the days that followed were even harder. I was now a full-time housekeeper, nurse, and cook. My days filled with endless chores and Eleanor's constant demands. And as always, Eleanor had her 2 cents to add about absolutely everything. Those curtains need a wash, she'd say, or the soup is too salty. It was endless, a relentless barrage of criticism that wore me down to a nub. One day, I finally snapped. Eleanor was criticizing the way I ironed her blouses, and I simply couldn't take it anymore. Eleanor, can you just stop? I asked, my voice shaking with barely suppressed fury. I'm doing my best here. She looked genuinely taken aback, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Well, I'm sorry if I have standards, Sarah. I threw the iron down on the ironing board, the clatter echoing in the tense silence. I'm not your servant, Eleanor. I'm your son's wife. I'm here trying to help, and all you do is criticize me. There was a moment of tense silence, the air thick with unspoken resentment. Then Eleanor's expression softened slightly, a hint of something akin to understanding in her eyes. I know you're trying, Sarah. I'm just used to things a certain way. I sighed, the tension slowly draining out of me. I know, Eleanor, but I'm not you. I have my way of doing things. From that day on, things were slightly better. Eleanor toned down her criticisms, and I tried to accommodate her quirks. It was a fragile truce, a delicate balance, but it was undeniably better than the constant battles that had defined our existence. As time dragged on in Eleanor's old house, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense, almost suffocating. Mark's behavior became increasingly distant and elusive. He was always late from work, offering vague excuses, and when he was home, he might as well have been invisible, retreating to the spare room like it was his personal sanctuary. One evening, unable to bear the suffocating silence and the growing distance between us anymore, I cornered him in the kitchen, my voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and anger. Mark, what's going on with you? You're hardly ever here, and when you are, it's like you're not even my husband anymore. He avoided eye contact, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. Work's a nightmare right now, Sarah. Just piles of stress. I leaned back against the counter, my arms folded, my gaze unwavering. I get stressed, Mark, but this feels like you're shutting me out. You're here, but you're not really here. He exhaled heavily, his gaze still fixed on his coffee. I don't know what you want me to say, Sarah. I'm just really tied up with stuff. I desperately wanted to believe him, to understand, but a nagging feeling inside me screamed that there was more to it. Something he wasn't telling me. Then there was Brenda, Mark's sister, who seemed to make it her personal mission to add to the already thick tension. Each visit from her was a trial. She'd look around the house with a sneer and quip. Still stuck in this old dump, huh? I usually bit my tongue, trying to keep the fragile peace, but one day, her taunts hit a raw nerve. Not all of us have the luxury to mooch off others, Brenda. I shot back, my voice sharp. She just cackled, her voice grating on my nerves. Oh, look at you playing the martyr in a haunted house. Pathetic. I clenched my jaw, holding back a barrage of angry words. Mark, ever the silent bystander, offered no defense. His silence was like another jab, another confirmation of the growing gulf between us. The biggest shift, however, came with Eleanor. One day she called for Brenda, her voice frail and desperate. Brenda, I need help with the bath. I can't manage on my own anymore. Brenda's response was cold and cutting, devoid of any compassion. Help yourself, Mom? I'm not your caretaker. Eleanor broke down in tears, her frail body shaking with sobs, and my heart couldn't take it. Despite our rocky history, I couldn't leave her in that state of distress. I helped her with the bath, and something between us shifted that day. Eleanor started to warm up to me, treating me less like an intruder and more like a daughter. It was a welcome change, a small ray of light in the oppressive darkness, but it also highlighted how far Mark and I had drifted apart. The house felt colder, emptier, despite Eleanor's newfound warmth towards me. The walls seemed to echo with the growing silence between Mark and me, a chasm that seemed to widen with each passing day. The chill in our home grew colder each day. Mark's late nights at work became the norm, and our conversations turned into mere whispers of their former selves. It was during one of these fleeting interactions, a brief moment when he actually acknowledged my presence, that Mark dropped a new piece of news, another shard of ice that would add to the growing pile of secrets and lies. Sarah, I got an apartment near work, he said nonchalantly, as if he were talking about the weather. I almost dropped the plate I was washing, the soapy water splashing onto the counter. An apartment? Why on earth would you need that? He leaned against the door frame, avoiding my gaze. It's just practical, Sarah. Saves me the commute, especially with the late nights. I felt a surge of anger and confusion, a cold dread creeping into my heart. And you just decided this without talking to me? What are we now, roommates? He shrugged, his indifference cutting deep. I thought you'd be happy, less stress about me coming home late. I shook my head, disbelief coloring my tone. Happy, Mark? This feels like you're living a double life. What's next? You'll tell me you have a second family? He sighed, rubbing his forehead wearily. Don't be dramatic, Sarah. It's not like that. I wanted to push further, to break through his nonchalant facade, to demand the truth, but I knew it was futile. The conversation ended there, as did many of our conversations those days, leaving me with a gnawing sense of unease. The true shock, the devastating blow that shattered the remnants of my trust, came a few days later in a candid conversation with Eleanor. We were in the living room, sharing a rare moment of calm, when she suddenly said, her voice quiet but firm, "You know, Mark didn't buy that apartment with his own money." I looked at her, puzzled. "What do you mean, Eleanor?" She hesitated, a shadow of sadness crossing her face, then continued. "He used my savings. He said it was an investment. He even put it in my name." I felt my heart sink, a cold weight settling in my chest. He'd been using her money, manipulating his own mother, and she was just okay with it? "Eleanor, are you okay with this?" Eleanor shrugged, a sad look in her eyes. "I couldn't say no. He's my son, but I thought you should know, Sarah." I was speechless, the betrayal hitting me like a physical blow. Mark's secret apartment was one thing, a stab in the back of our marriage, but using his mother's savings under the guise of an investment. It felt like the man I had married was slipping away, replaced by this stranger shrouded in secrets and lies. A few days later, I confronted Mark about it, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "Mark, why didn't you tell me the apartment was bought with your mom's money?" He was unapologetic, almost defiant. "Because I knew you'd react like this, Sarah. It's an investment. It's not a big deal." I couldn't believe his audacity. "Not a big deal? You're gambling with your mom's savings and keeping it from me? What else are you hiding?" He turned away, ending the conversation with a dismissive wave of his hand. "You wouldn't understand, Sarah. It's business." Business? That word felt like a chasm opening up between us, a convenient excuse for everything that was going wrong in our marriage. Living in Eleanor's old, dreary house was taking its toll on me, the weight of unspoken resentments and simmering tensions pressing down on me. The walls, once probably vibrant with life, now echoed a somber tone, and every creaking floorboard seemed to whisper secrets and betrayals. One day, I just couldn't take the oppressive atmosphere any longer. "Eleanor, have you ever thought about renovating the house?" I asked over a quiet breakfast, trying to inject a bit of hope into the stagnant air. It could really use some freshening up. Eleanor looked up from her tea, surprised by the suggestion. "Renovate? I haven't thought about it in years. It's such a big task." I nodded, feeling a small spark of enthusiasm ignite within me. "I know, but it could really brighten up the place. Maybe just start with a new coat of paint or some new wallpaper." Eleanor considered it for a moment, a thoughtful frown on her face. "Well, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to bring some new life into this old house. But are you sure you're up for it, Sarah?" I smiled, eager for a project, something to pour my energy into. "Absolutely, it'll be a good change." And so it began. I threw myself into the renovation with a fervor, painting walls in soft, hopeful colors, choosing wallpapers with delicate patterns, and even attempting to restore some of the old, forgotten furniture. It was hard work, my muscles aching and my hands covered in paint. But it felt good, like I was breathing life back into the house and, in a way, into myself. One day, while I was up to my elbows in a bucket of pale yellow paint, Mark walked in, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief as he took in the scene. "What the hell, Sarah? What are you doing to my mom's house?" I stood up, wiping the sweat from my brow with the back of my hand, leaving a streak of yellow across my forehead. "I'm renovating, Mark, like I told Eleanor. It's time this place got a little love and care." Mark's face hardened, his eyes flashing with anger. "You had no right to start changing things without asking me. This is my family home, not some DIY project." I felt my temper rise, the familiar frustration bubbling to the surface. "Your home? When was the last time you even cared about this place, Mark? I'm doing something good here, trying to make this gloomy place livable." He took a step closer, his voice rising. "You're overstepping, Sarah. You always do this. Take control and push everyone else aside." I stared at him incredulously, my voice laced with disbelief. "Take control, Mark. I'm trying to make this gloomy place livable. Maybe if you spent more time here, you'd see that." Before Mark could retort, Eleanor walked in, drawn by the raised voices. "What's all this noise about?" Mark turned to his mother, his voice dripping with indignation. "Mom, did you know about this? About her changing the house?" Eleanor looked from me to Mark, then back again, a surprising firmness in her gaze. "Yes, I did, and I'm glad she's doing it. This house needed a change, and Sarah's doing a wonderful job." Mark looked like he'd been slapped, his mouth agape. "But it's our family home." Eleanor cut him off, her tone leaving no room for argument. "It's my home, Mark, and I want this. Sarah has every right to do what she's doing." Mark stormed out of the room, leaving me and Eleanor in an awkward silence. I felt a mix of victory and profound sadness. The house was slowly transforming, becoming brighter and more welcoming. But the gap between Mark and me seemed to only grow wider, a dark chasm separating two people who were once so close. The day Eleanor suffered her stroke, our fragile world tilted on its axis and then completely flipped upside down. I was there, witnessing her sudden decline, her words slurring, her strong body weakening before my very eyes. Panic gripped me, a cold, paralyzing fear, as I called for help, my voice quivering with terror. In the sterile, impersonal atmosphere of the hospital, the grim reality set in. Eleanor needed constant care, a level of attention that would fundamentally alter our lives. I looked to Mark for support, for a shared burden in this crisis, but he was distant, his eyes void of any real concern, his face a mask of thinly veiled annoyance. "I can't deal with this, Sarah. I have enough on my plate," he said, his voice cold and detached, as if discussing a minor inconvenience. I was stunned, the callousness of his words hitting me like a physical blow. "You can't deal with this, Mark. She's your mother." He shrugged, his response cutting like a knife. "Yeah, and she's been a burden for years. This is just the cherry on top." I couldn't hide my disgust, the anger boiling within me. "She's not a burden, Mark. She's family. She needs us." His laugh was bitter, devoid of any warmth. Us? No, Sarah, she needs you. I've got other things to handle. I was left speechless, my respect for him plummeting with each cold, dismissive word. I took it upon myself to care for Eleanor, spending hours at the hospital, then bringing her home and navigating the daunting world of round-the-clock care. It was hard, emotionally and physically draining, watching this once strong, independent woman confined to a bed, dependent on me for every little thing. As I became Eleanor's primary caregiver, Paul's visits grew rarer and his indifference more apparent. His visits were short, his conversations with Eleanor brief and superficial, filled with empty platitudes. Then Brenda came, her presence a toxic cloud hanging over the already strained atmosphere. I overheard them in the living room, their words like venomous whispers. "We should start thinking about the will, dividing the assets," Brenda said, her voice devoid of any emotion, as if discussing the weather. I burst into the room, fury coursing through my veins. "How can you be so heartless? Discussing her will right in front of her? She's still here." Brenda smirked, her words sharp and cruel. "Oh, look who's talking, the saintly daughter-in-law. This is our family's matter, stay out of it," Mark chimed in, his voice laced with cynicism. "Sarah, just drop it. It's practical to plan these things. No use pretending she's going to bounce back." I was aghast at his cruelty, the casual dismissal of his own mother's life. "Practical? She's your mother, Mark. How can you be so callous?" He shrugged, his reply cold and detached. "Life's callous, Sarah. Better get used to it." I turned away, my heart heavy with disgust and a profound sense of loneliness. In the following weeks, I dedicated myself to Eleanor's recovery, pouring all my energy into her care. And to my surprise, she showed small but significant signs of improvement. Her fingers twitched, her speech cleared slightly, and she even managed a few tentative steps with my support. It was a miracle to me, a testament to her resilience and my unwavering care, but it seemed to be nothing more than an inconvenience to Mark and Brenda, their true colors now vividly clear. Their mother's slow recovery was nothing more than a hurdle in their path to inheritance. The betrayal stung deep, not just as a daughter-in-law, but as a human being. Life settled into a grim routine, Eleanor's health a constant roller coaster of small victories, overshadowed by the looming fear of the worst. Then it happened. Another stroke, this time more severe. The call from the hospital felt like a punch to the gut, the words blurring as the doctor delivered the devastating news. Eleanor didn't make it. The funeral was a somber affair, a bleak landscape of grief and forced solemnity. I stood beside the grave, my heart heavy with a profound sense of loss, watching as people paid their respects to a woman who had, in her own way, become a part of my life. That's when Mark arrived, and with him, a woman I didn't recognize, and two small children clinging to her hands. "Who's she?" I whispered to myself, my eyes fixed on the unfamiliar woman, a cold dread washing over me. Mark approached, his expression unreadable, devoid of any hint of grief. "Sarah," he said, his voice flat. "This is Carol, my wife, and these are our kids." I felt like I had been physically slapped, the air knocked out of my lungs. "Your wife? When did this happen?" He shrugged, a chilling coldness in his voice. "A while ago. It's none of your business, Sarah." I was speechless, my mind reeling, trying to process the enormity of his betrayal. How could he? And during all this time, while I was caring for his dying mother, he had another family. Brenda was there too, her usual smug expression firmly in place. "Finally showing your true colors, Sarah," she sneered. "Playing the grieving daughter-in-law. It's a bit late for that." I glared at her, my voice laced with contempt. "I was here for Eleanor when you both abandoned her. Don't you dare judge me," Mark interjected, his voice impatient. "Let's just get this over with. We have other matters to discuss." After the funeral ended and the small gathering moved to Eleanor's house for the reading of the will, Mark and Brenda were like vultures, eagerly awaiting their share. The lawyer began reading the document, his voice echoing in the tense silence, and that's when the final, unexpected bombshell dropped. "And therefore, I leave everything, the house, the money, all of my assets, to my dear daughter-in-law, Sarah." Mark's face went from smug expectation to utter shock and disbelief. "What the hell? This can't be right." Brenda was fuming, her face contorted with rage. This is insane. She was our mother. How could she leave everything to this nobody? I stood there stunned, not sure how to feel. Happy, vindicated? It all felt hollow, tainted by the years of pain and betrayal. Mark turned to me, his voice filled with bitter accusation. You manipulated her, didn't you? Turned her against us. I shook my head, disbelief and anger mixing in my voice. I did nothing but care for her, Mark, which is more than I can say for you. The lawyer intervened, his voice calm and professional. Eleanor was very clear in her will, Mr. Henderson. Brenda was seething. This is not the end. We'll contest this. There's no way we're letting her get away with this. As they left in a huff, their angry shouts echoing in the quiet house, I stood there alone in the house that was now legally mine. The walls that had witnessed so much pain, betrayal, and in the end, a strange, unexpected form of love and connection. I looked around feeling the heavy weight of Eleanor's last act of kindness and the bitter sting of a broken family. The house felt different now, no longer a place of oppression, but a space echoing with Eleanor's final wishes, a testament to a bond they had forged in the face of adversity. I was sitting there, holding the worn, leather-bound will, still trying to wrap my head around everything. Eleanor had left it all to me, a final, powerful gesture of trust and affection. And Mark and Brenda were beyond furious, their greed and entitlement laid bare. They came back the next day, their faces red with rage, their voices raised in furious accusations. You really think you can just take everything? Mark burst out as soon as he stepped into the living room, his eyes blazing with anger. I looked up, tired but resolute, standing my ground in the house that was now mine. Eleanor decided this, Mark. It was her choice. Brenda was practically screaming, her face contorted with fury. You tricked a sick old lady. We won't let you get away with this. I stood up, finally fed up with their relentless nonsense. Tricked her? I was here for her, Brenda, unlike you two. She chose to leave it to me because I actually cared. Mark was fuming, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. So you think you've beaten us? You think you can just snatch everything away? I let out a heavy sigh, the weight of the past few years pressing down on me. I didn't snatch anything, Mark. Eleanor gave it to me because she knew I was the one who was there, the one who truly cared for her. Their yelling didn't stop, a torrent of angry words and bitter accusations, but it was just noise against the quiet truth of Eleanor's will and the bond we had formed. Then the lawyer showed up with a video, a final message from Eleanor. Her voice, though a little frail, filled the room as her image flickered on the screen. I left everything to Sarah, she said, her gaze direct and unwavering, because she was like the daughter I never had. She was there when my own children weren't. She deserves it all. The room went quiet, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Mark looked like he'd been punched in the gut, his anger replaced by a flicker of something that might have been regret. Brenda started crying, the reality of their neglect finally hitting home. After that, Mark and Brenda left, their threats and accusations dissolving into empty air. I was alone in the big house, surrounded by the ghosts of the past and the uncertain promise of the future. I made the difficult decision to divorce Mark. There was nothing left of the man I had once loved. His betrayal had shattered any possibility of reconciliation. He and his new family had to move to a rental, the illusion of his double life finally crumbling. Brenda, consumed by her own bitterness and resentment, had her own mess to deal with, her debts and bad choices finally catching up to her. As for me, I stood in my new house, a bittersweet ache in my heart. There was sadness for what had been lost, for the broken family and the years of struggle, but also a quiet sense of hope and a burgeoning excitement for what lay ahead. Eleanor's will wasn't just about the house and the money. It was like she was giving me a new beginning, a chance to build a life free from the shadows of the past. I decided to start over, to use what Eleanor had left me to create something new for myself. The house, once a painful reminder of difficult times, was now a symbol of resilience and a place for new beginnings. Valuable lesson. Sometimes the people we expect to be there for us in times of need are the ones who disappoint us the most. Conversely, unexpected connections can blossom in the face of adversity, and true family is not always defined by blood. It's about who shows up, who cares, and who stands by you when the chips are down. Don't be afraid to recognize and value the kindness of those who support you, even if they come from unexpected places. What are your thoughts on Sarah's situation? Have you ever experienced a similar unexpected turn in your life? Share your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more compelling stories.